And if anybody else has, I have a technique that sometimes works for winning, for my team winning in professional sports. For many years, I was rooting my home team, the Eagles, rooting them on. I watched every game, and every year they lost. Like, I watched every single game. And then I had this new technique that I was being very positive at that point. So I took on a different technique where it's like, I'm going to be as negative as possible. With the sports team, I'm going to say, like, there's no way they're going to win. They can't succeed. There's no way. Then my expectations were like, low, so I would be pleasantly surprised. And it turned out that they ended up winning. And so I just stopped watching them after a while, and then they got to the Super Bowl. So that worked out pretty well. But overall, I don't apply that method of thinking, intentionally thinking negatively about things. Thinking negative overall is something I really try to stay away from. There's a lot of negative thoughts have a great impact on us on multiple levels. So there was a study in 2016 that came out where they they interviewed 70,000 women, and they compared negative thinkers to positive thinkers. And it says that the most optimistic women had a 16% lower risk of dying from cancer, 38% lower risk of dying from heart disease, 39% lower risk from stroke, 38% lower risk of dying from respiratory disease, and 52% lower risk of dying from infection. That's a large amount. That's a large disparity between those who think positively or thinking negatively. So on a physical level, thinking positively can impact your health. And it can really impact your spiritual life, your spiritual world. This was highlighted in last week's Parshat, in Parshat Shelach. The spies went to Eretz Yisrael, the 12 of them. 10 of them came back with a really negative report. And they lowered the spirit of all the nation. And they ended up having to wander through the desert and perish in the desert due to that negative thinking. There were 2 spies who came back with a positive report. Their report said their language they used was Tovah haaretz me'od me'od. The land isn't just bad, it's not scary, it's very, very good. Not just one good, not just very good, very, very good. The language is extreme. And when there's another place where this language me'od me'od appears in our text, it appears when it comes to the trait of arrogance. Like, you have to go to the other extreme, be very, very humble. The Rambam says that means you have to go to the other extreme. And so I have this code word of me'od me'od when it comes to negative thinking, I think teaches us that we have to go to the other extreme, to try to be as positive as possible, try to think positively, try to see the positive outcome behind things, not just on a physical level it'll benefit us, but also spiritually. It'll uplift our spirits. Imagine if they came back with a positive report and everybody followed the words of Yehoshua and Calev. We would have gone into the land of Israel. We wouldn't have to perish in the desert. All kinds of wonderful things would have happened. So here I kind of Googled and tried to figure out what are some ways that we can do this? How can we think positively? Rabbi's telling you, think positive. How do you do it? So here are some that stood out to me from a list of 10. Practice self-awareness. Recognize when negativity bias is at play by monitoring your thoughts and reactions. Take a little, scan yourself. Think through, what are your thoughts? Are you reacting negatively or positive? Take a moment to think about it. Another one is, this is a powerful one, limit exposure to negative content. So reduce your exposure to negative news or social media that can exacerbate negativity bias. That's a huge one. In Israel, I have cousins and family who watch the news religiously every day. The news in Israel, if you ever watch a news broadcast in Israel, it's really negative. The way that they teach things, the way that they deliver the material, it's negative. And so if you listen to that day in and day out, you're going to start thinking negatively about other people in society. You're going to think in a bad way. Try to limit your exposure to those negative influences. So here's 3 more. Surround yourself with positivity. Find people who uplift and inspire you. If you can be around positive people, that can enable you to be positive and think positively. And vice versa. Try to stay away from people who are going to pull you down, drag you down. Another one is celebrate small wins. I think that's a positive one. Many times we're able to celebrate the big things that happen, the big accomplishments, but there's a lot of small wins along the way. Many times we overlook them. Give yourself a pat on the back. Recognize the small wins. That can enhance your positivity because there's a lot of small wins. Maybe there's not always a lot of big wins, but there's a lot of small wins along the way.